As you look over your Denver backyard and think about your next chapter, have you ever wondered, is now the time to move home? Maybe your parents need you more than they used to. Or maybe there's a new grandbaby that you don't want to miss. Or maybe you're beginning to think about who would be there for you someday. Those are all good reasons to consider a move. But after helping homeowners across the Denver suburbs for more than 25 years, I've learned something. People who have regrets moving almost never regret it for the reason they expected. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Every housing decision solves one problem and creates another. The goal isn't to avoid compromise, it's to choose the compromise that you can live with. And that's where I see the first regret. Regret number one, moving closer to family. Most people think the regret is going to be about the house itself. Yeah, it's too small, it's too far, it's too much yard work, or not enough yard work. But that's almost never what I hear. What I actually hear from people I've worked with here in the Denver suburbs over the last 25 years is something much quieter. They moved to be closer to the family, but they never had the conversation with the family about what being closer was actually going to look like. Yeah, maybe you're picturing Sunday dinners with everyone, helping with the grandkids, being together for birthdays and school events. But your daughter gets transferred 2 years later after you move. The grandkids become busy teenagers with their own lives. Or maybe the in-laws end up being more involved in the day-to-day than you expected. And you find that your role in the family turns out to be very different from the one that you had imagined. Now, none of this makes the move a wrong decision. It simply means that the decision was built around your picture of the future instead of a conversation with the family about what that future could actually look like. Hey, I'm curious, have you ever moved to be closer to family? Or maybe you're thinking about it now. And did you have that conversation? What did you learn? I'd love to hear your experience in the comments because I read every one. Family is often the reason people decide to move. But once that decision is made, there's another regret that can quietly sneak in. And this one has nothing to do with family at all. It's all about the life you've spent years building right here in Denver. Regret number two, underestimating what you're leaving behind. A friend of mine, we'll call him John, and I have had this conversation more than once. We've talked about what we'd do if we ever decided to leave the Denver suburbs. Where would we go? What kind of community would we want? We even have friends that many people would call their living off the grid lifestyle. Not literally, they have beautiful homes, but they're a long way from healthcare, shopping, restaurants, and the day-to-day activities that keep people connected. And every time we talk about it, we come back to the same question. Would that really fit the life we want as we get older? Because as we age, the house only becomes part of the equation. You have to think about your lifestyle. Will you have easy access to healthcare? Will you have places to exercise safely, whether that's a trail or whether that's your local recreation center? Will you have a church or faith community that you can join that's important to you? Will it be easy to meet friends for lunch and stay involved in the activities you enjoy? And then there are all the little things you don't even think about until after you've made the move, like finding a new doctor, a new dentist, a new hairstylist, learning where to shop, figuring out which roads to take and which roads to avoid. None of these things sound like a big deal in themselves, but together they make up your everyday life. And that's the trade-off people often don't see coming. It isn't that they miss their old house. It's that they miss the life that they had built around it. Now, don't get me wrong. Moving can be an incredible adventure. I've moved several times myself, and I know many military families who've built wonderful lives in places they never expected to call home. But every move asks you to do more than just unpack the boxes. It asks you to build a new life, new friends, new routines, new favorite restaurants, a new doctor, maybe a new faith community, new places to exercise. That's all very doable, but you just want to make sure that you're excited about building that new life, not just excited about leaving the old one. And that brings me to what I think is the biggest regret of all. Because the first two regrets, well, they can be worked through. You can adjust expectations, you can build a new community, but this last one can quietly take away something that's much harder to get back. And that's your choices. Regret number three, waiting until the decision gets made for you. I think about this every time I visit my dad. He's 92 now, and he and his wife have lived in the same community for decades. Yep, it's familiar, it's home. And at this stage of his life, the idea of moving feels overwhelming. The challenge is that the house has slowly become more than they can comfortably manage on their own. They're projects that need attention. The yard still needs care. His wife needs more help than she used to. Now, hiring help would make life easier, but that's also a difficult adjustment after doing everything yourself for so many years, especially for my dad. On top of that, most of the family has moved out west, so the support system that they once had nearby isn't there anymore. Now, none of this happened overnight. It happened little by little. And if I'm honest, I don't think my dad ever saw the moment where that choice slipped away from him. I don't think anyone does. That's exactly why I believe so strongly in having a plan B. Not because everyone should move, not because everyone should stay, but because I want you to be making these decisions while they still feel like choices, instead of waiting until they start feeling like necessities. Hey, if we haven't met, my name's Peggy Dursthoff with Live Denver Suburbs, powered by HomeSmart, and I help homeowners make smart real estate decisions without pressure and without regret. Now, if you've been thinking about leaving the Denver suburbs for your next chapter, I hope this video gave you a few things to think about as you plan your next move. Now, if moving home is something you're seriously considering, I'd encourage you to watch this video next. Because before you decide where to live, it's important to make sure you're still the one making the decision. In that video, I talk about why having a plan B before you need one can give you more choices, less stress, and a lot fewer regrets. Just click right there to watch it next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.